All right, let's have a look at some of the papers we've got for you this morning. All right, let's start off with Vanguard newspaper here this morning. It's treasonable to call for a military coup ascribed to defense headquarters. That's been on for a while now, this story about Chief of Army Staff. Look at some of the riders now. Directs actions against individuals, groups advocating unconstitutional change, denies appointing acting Chief of Army Staff, warns against unfounded rumors on Chief of Army Staff Lagbaja's health status. And then, above that list story, fuel import. We are settling out of court with NMPC Limited, others ascribed to Dangote. So, responding to that story that made the rounds yesterday as well. The Guardian newspaper, pro-masses bill stalls at National Assembly as political motions get priority. So that's of huge concern. And beneath that, PDP ramps up internal reforms as NEC, NWC governors prepare for critical decisions. So they intend to have a lot of those this week. So it might be major decision time for them this week. Have a look at Daily Trust. How we recovered consignment of drugs from Senator Ashiru's house, ascribed to the NDLEA. The writers here says, aides arrested, one jailed. Allegations not true, ascribed to lawmaker. Issue must be properly investigated, ascribed to CSOs. This is a matter that you might get some interest in. So, yeah, you could go ahead and get more perspective on that interest in. So, yeah, you could go ahead and get more perspective on that one. And then the Nigerian News Direct is next here. FG mauls $2.4 billion revenue. Eyes additional crude production of 1 million barrels per day as oil producers propose incentives for government to boost production. The other rider, government approves ExxonMobil Seplat divestment, declines Shell Renaissance deal. Daily Independent, party crisis. PDP governors plan soft landing for Damagru Anyanwu, summon them. And then some of the riders, Oyinlola committee meets NAS caucus on dwindling fortunes of party. Then the second rider, PDP says Ganduje statement on Ondo could truncate democracy. And then beneath this lead story, this might also be of interest to you. We have assembled legal team to review Nigerian laws ascribed to the federal government. Remember what many have said, it's not about laws, we have so many laws, but implementation. So who knows what this team might come up with. Nigerian Tribune is next here. PDP carpets Ganduje over threat to capture Ondo ahead of that election. The comments made by the APC chairman, that's what this is about. And then the blueprint is next here today. EFCC Act, after Abakoba Falana Tango, Supreme Court begins hearing today. Our critics feeling the heat. Ascribed to the anti-graft body. Rearrange ex-Kwara Governor Ahmed over 5.78 billion naira fraud. The blueprint equally picks up on this narrative beneath that lead story. We recovered drugs from Deputy Senate Leader Ashiru's house, ascribed to the NDLEA, and with rebuttal ascribed to the lawmaker. So what is going on there? The Daily Times, it's treasonable to call for military coup. Defense headquarters warns. Says security agencies ordered to go after those calling for military takeover. Beneath that one, crude production. Tinubu tasks NUPRC industry players on joint realization. That you can find right there on the paper. The Leadership newspaper, 4 years after #EndSARS, right there on the paper. The Leadership newspaper, 4 years after #EndSARS, police brutality, rights abuse persist. The writers here say, stakeholders worried, call for urgent reforms. Police release #EndSARS anniversary protesters. It was a missed opportunity, and that is ascribed to experts right there. And then have a look at the business day. Seplat shares hit record high as FG approves ExxonMobil deal. Nigeria to unlock 146,000 barrels per day. 3 other divestment deals get FG's nod. So that's sector getting some interesting stories right there this morning. The New Telegraph, Frequent national grid collapse fueling high cost of production, says MAN, that's Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Look at the riders here. Ready to jettison network for alternative energy, says recurring incidents erodes profits, spells doom for local manufacturers. And then the other rider, NERC fixes public hearing on incessant grid collapse for October 24. So, beneath this little story here, we have no hand in slot allocation for Heathrow. UK writes Nigeria air peace. So there you go. Those are some of the headlines this morning. All right, there you go.
Quite a lot to chew, and it's one of those mornings where you look at the front pages and the stories are as diverse as the papers. But you know, the story that is catching my attention this morning is the one on the front page of Daily Trust newspapers. It's very difficult to ignore that particular story, Chamberlain, and it's one that we shouldn't sweep under the carpet. That carpet, this one says that carpet is already full. You know, what's underneath it needs to be brought out. How we recovered consignment of drugs from Senator Ashiru's house. That's according to the NDLEA. This is one story that broke yesterday, a very, very messy story. From what we can see, the NDLEA held a press conference. It's not one of those ones that, you know, they issue a press release. Every Sunday now, journalists know to look forward to the statement from the NDLEA in terms of what consignment they found or didn't find anywhere around the airport. We now expect it from the NDLEA. But this one, they actually called a press conference to address journalists and even take questions. So we expect that Senator Oyelola Ashiru, who is from Kwara State, will also do same. He should be willing to take questions based on what the NDLEA has said, because from what happened, from what we were told transpired, the Senate is mulling the creation of another institute. They call it the National Institute for Drug Awareness and Rehabilitation. And it was during the debate of that particular bill on the floor of the Senate that the senator was said to have leveled very grievous allegations against the NDLEA. Just in case you're wondering, NDLEA is a National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. For those of us who are not very good with acronyms, they're the ones in charge of making sure that, you know, drug trafficking within and outside of Nigeria, you know, is brought to a halt. And so while speaking, we understand that the senator was said to have said that the failure of the NDLEA has resulted in a high rate of drug trafficking in the country, and it says it's the most corrupt and compromised government agency in Nigeria. Well, that was something that the NDLEA was not going to take lying low. And we do know that in recent times, the NDLEA has been commended for the work that it has been doing, trying to stem drug trafficking. As I did say, journalists now every Sunday expect this, you know, release from the NDLEA, and they usually provide it with proof. They show the people arrested, they show the consignment impounded, etc., etc. We see that almost every Sunday now. And people have said that in recent times there's been renewed vigor to how the NDLEA has been fighting, has been fighting drug trafficking. So this came as a surprise to many people that the senator said this. But the NDLEA says, look, what the senator was aiming at was revenge, because they had raided the senator's house in Kwara State, in GRA in Kwara State, and they found that his house was a joint for drugs. Don't forget that during the conversation that was going on the floor of the Senate, one of the senators actually did say, I think Senator Sumaila Kawu was said to have said that, you know, some of the senators do not stop drug use within their own homes and also their own offices. I heard it was ruled out of order by the Deputy Senate President that what he was saying did not have any correlation to the conversation that was being had at hand. But there they were, you know, the NDLEA coming out to say that they raided the senator's house. They not only raided it, they found drugs, they arrested his aides, they jailed one of them, and that they also have connections to his hometown where, you know, some people have now been arrested from there as well. This is what the NDLEA has said. They actually held a presser to say. So this particular story, the question now is, how do we get out the truth? Where is the truth going to come out? Because it's now Senator Oyinlola Ashiru's words against an agency such as the NDLEA. Who is going to oversight this to make sure that, nobody's trying to use any power here to muzzle anybody? But certainly this is something that is worth, scrutinizing. What has called for this rushed, establishment of another, institution? Is it so that the NDLEA can be muzzled, or has the NDLEA truly become inefficient and will need assistance, in this advocacy, trying to stop drug trafficking and letting youths know the hazards of drug trafficking? I don't know. I think the jury is out on that one, but I think that this is a story that needs to be highlighted. It cannot be swept under the carpet, and I think that Senator Ashiru needs to know that we hardly hear his voice on the floor of the Senate. If he's going to raise allegations as grievous as those, it will be worth his while, to come to journalists and clarify his position.
Now that we're hearing his voice, we might as well go the whole hog. For the NDLEA to have granted that conference, it means they're confident enough of what they're doing. And probably, I think it might be about time that agencies like this go with body cameras when you're going for operations like this.
Indeed.
So that in the interest of transparency, because the job that the NDLEA is doing is not one that has to be watered down by trying to create another agency as a result of vendetta. That's not how these things are done. So even if the Senate does it, House of Reps have got to concur, I reckon.
And the president has to sign it.
So people are looking to see all of these things. And so the NDLEA, if they got a job to do, they have to do the job. But then they have to be seen to be doing the job as independently as possible. So if they've got anything, charge them to courts. If you found anything, that is the right place to go. Institutions have got to work, no matter how ox is scored, because people who occupy those positions today will be off tomorrow. And at the end of the day, it is you and I that are members of society that need to hold some of these people, even though all of them, accountable. Hold their feet to the fire as much as possible. So let them bring out all the evidence you have. Let's take it to the next stage, the courts. That is where these things are decided.
All right, let's have a look at some of the papers we've got for you.